It's a mean age. But it is gonna be a beautiful future as long as we don't f*** it up. I'm Brian McWilliams, and this is Mean Age Daydream, where I bring you unfiltered comedy, criticism, philosophy, and politics with a Mean Age Daydream. Boom! What's up, puppy dogs, kitty cats, and all my lovers out there? I am here, Brian McWilliams, with the new Mean Age Daydream, and I'm joined by one Reed Coverdale. Reed the Weed can't keep him down. Keeps cropping up, man. And welcome, Reed. Welcome to Mean Age Daydream once again.
Thanks, man. I know I'm a little nervous about this job interview for being the new third leg of Lions of Liberty, but I'm going to do my best, and we'll see how it goes, and hopefully I get the job. But thanks for having me on.
We need someone more controversial to balance out Odie's blandness. So, yes, I think you're going to get the job.
I definitely fit the bill for that. So.
Well, I know. It's so funny. So we were just talking before we came on, your YouTube channel. I was going to talk about how it got yanked, but you said you got it back. Again, Reed the Weed. Can't keep you down. So you got it back, but what was it this time? Did they even tell you what you got, what the violation was for that they yanked you for?
Yeah, so what was weird, as you know, on YouTube, you're supposed to get a warning and then 3 strikes. And I believe a strike has a duration of about 3 months. So if a strike expires, then it goes away. And then, so it's not just 3 strikes in general, it's 3 strikes within a certain amount of time. And then your channel's gone. However, I'd only had a warning. I'd had one video taken down last October, I think. And that was it. And then I suddenly woke up the other day and my whole YouTube channel's gone. And I just have an email that says, we found repeated serious violations of our community standards on your YouTube channel. And we have therefore removed it. If you think this is unjust, you can appeal here. So I appealed and I said, hey, what the heck? First of all, you're not even telling me what video or videos triggered these violations. But also, I don't have any previous strikes, so even if I did violate it, it shouldn't matter. I should just lose privileges for a week, I shouldn't be able to stream or upload a video or whatever. And so I harassed them on Twitter and sent them the email, and actually within 3 hours, it was back up. It was very fast. But then, a couple hours after I got it back up, there was a video from, I think, July of 2021, where we talked about a thing that you inject into your body that you're not allowed to talk about on YouTube. But I believe in July, that was still not against the terms of service, because I remember some things like that certain ritual we have every 4 years that took place in 2020, you were allowed to have skepticisms of that event on YouTube for a while, and then eventually they said, okay, you can't talk about this anymore. But any videos that you had made before that decision was policy stayed up, and they were fine. Yeah. And so I thought that would be the same with this, so I'm going to appeal that as well. But right now I'm just dealing with a strike and a week-long suspension from streaming or uploading. But very strange, man. When I woke up, I was like, oh my. Because I've been banned off of Twitter, which I had 20,000 followers there. And then YouTube, I have 10,000 subscribers. And so if I don't get Twitter back and YouTube is gone, I probably would have just quit. Because, I'd still have Odyssey, Spotify. But as you know, I started as a YouTube channel. I didn't start as a podcast.
Right.
And then I eventually branched out to doing audio. So I was kind of thinking, wow, maybe, because I was thinking about trying to not necessarily rebrand the show, but kind of refocus more on blue collar work and, trying to tell people how they can advance in their own lives instead of just endlessly pontificating about war and civil liberties and whatever. Because you could talk about that till you're blue in the face, but nothing changes. Where if you talk about stuff that people can actually do in their own lives to make it better, maybe you actually can make a tangible difference in someone's life. And so then I was like, well, I guess here's the perfect excuse. Maybe I should just start a completely new show, not even just redirect it. But
I'll tell you this. I am sick and tired. By the way, I read shows called Naturalist Capitalist. Naturalist Capitalist, if you guys are unfamiliar. I am sick of libertarians. Everybody's all of a sudden, they're like, we need to stop talking about all this war and civil liberties because nothing ever changes. We got to start doing self-improvement. Like Mark's show, he's talking about self-improvement.
I know.
Odie's talking about self-improvement. Get out of here. They need to keep talking about bullshit. I mean, my show I changed because I also got sick of talking about war and civil liberties. But that's where, I'm trying to preach a positive outlook, a different fairy tale of the future. But you know what? I was talking to Robbie, Robbie Bernstein about the YouTube getting pulled because our YouTube channel gets flagged and striked all the time. And they just have so much material to go through. We constantly always have at least one strike. And whenever one expires, they slap us with a new one. But to what your point about talking about the VAXs or the election shit, I swear they go back and they will go after stuff that's like trending in current time, with what an algorithm it is. So that's why they keep dredging up this old stuff. Like the one we most recently had our channel struck for and we had to wait 10 days to post was something about medical misinformation from an episode with Shane Hazel that Odie did. But for sure, it was talking about that. But in the meantime, we're on this, we're talking about this now. And I don't give a damn if they pulled my YouTube down because, we've got like 6,500 subscribers and we get like 80 views a video because we're shadow banned. Right. So it doesn't even matter to me. But, right now we have all this talk about blood clots. There, like all these reports about people dying that have been boosted up, all these concrete reports about the ill effects of the COVID vaccine, and yet they're still censoring this content. That's what drives me insane. I just can't believe it.
Yeah, well, they have to censor things if they're false. That's totally how it works. Everybody doesn't want you talking about things that are untrue. Like that's why they ban you for saying the Earth is flat, right? Or that's why they would ban you for saying that the sky is red. They would definitely ban you for that. They wouldn't just ignore you and say, haha, silly person, right. Why would you say that, right? It's definitely how this all works. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I know other people who have had stuff from like 2 years ago suddenly show up. Where I've had this happen is on Facebook. It's the suicide meme with Hillary Clinton. I mean, it's from like 3 or 4 years ago, and suddenly I get flagged. And it's like saying that I'm trying to encourage people to commit suicide or something. And it's
like, I'm trying to warn people that they could be suicided. It's very different.
True. Yeah. It's an action happening to them, not one that they would carry out themselves. Completely different.
Exactly.
But yeah, the rebrand thing, that it is funny that you were pointing out how many people have kind of come to this realization. I still want to talk a little bit about war and civil liberties, but I feel like it's been like 98% of my content, and it's only reaching a certain group of people where I really want to kind of draw a larger group of people in and then hopefully point them in a certain direction. I think that's a lot more effective than just speaking to an echo chamber. So hopefully it will be different.
Well, that's, again, that was one of the efforts that I'm trying to do on this show, doing a little bit more broader entertainment stuff and episodes that are just focused on entertainment content. But also it's why, I do this other comedy podcast, The Boring Podcast. That was specifically launched just to do something that was more or less non-political to try to reach a broader audience. And that show, I was hoping it would take off. It has not taken off as much as I would have liked. But still, the idea is that, you want to have shit be more approachable to people where it's not just being yelled at or whined at and depressing and down all the time. It's something that people can go, all right, I get this. And now I like this guy and now I'll listen to him. I mean, that's the overall content. But I also, I was thinking about, right? So we get so frustrated with people not changing. The world seems to keep on trucking along. But then I also have some hope for the future because Twitter right now, with Elon Musk in charge, right? He's releasing all these documents about the censorship, about Hunter Biden's laptop, about the censorship, about election 2020, and even Donald Trump's tweeting about, well, it looks like you can question it now because Twitter's not going to censor you anymore, whether the election was stolen. Do you think that there's going to be more power in the hands of people like us to change people's minds now, because Twitter is going to stop censoring so much. And that is basically right now the biggest public square.
Yeah, I'm still skeptical about how much censorship is being rolled back. So there have been reinstated accounts for a lot of right-wing figures, but outside of that, I haven't really seen a huge change in the actual structure of Twitter. I mean, there's still people getting banned for saying dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people like Dan McAdams isn't back on Twitter. I'm not back on Twitter, obviously. You know, lots of people who definitely should be reinstated. And he was talking about a massive general amnesty to everybody who hadn't broken the law or committed egregious spam. Mm-hmm. And then he said he was going to do it, and I haven't seen that really happen. I mean,
I've not seen that either.
And so with all this stuff, like, I think, you know, it's a little ridiculous to act like things aren't any better than they were, or that they were better and now he's making it worse. I think that's a bit of a ridiculous statement, but I think our job as libertarians and free speech advocates is to kind of hold him accountable to what he said he's going to do. Like, I see a lot of people excusing away his actions. And to me, that's dumb, because I never want to excuse away anybody's actions. I always want to be holding their feet to the fire. You know, like Tulsi Gabbard came to New Hampshire and endorsed Don Baldock, who's an awful warmongering psychopath.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that I know who had supported her in 2020, like I did, they were trying to like argue it away. Well, no, she's doing this because of this, and maybe we should give this guy a chance. Maybe his mind has changed in the last 3 weeks about Afghanistan and, you know, Ukraine and Taiwan and everything. It's like, no, guys, come on. Like, these are politicians, and we should always be extorting them and threatening them to not support them again. And, you know, just holding their feet to the fire all the time. I mean, that in my mind is what we should be doing with all these celebrities, all these public figures, all these politicians. But a lot of people love to, you know, they love to have an icon that they can kind of rally behind and act like that person is, you know, the ultimate good or the ultimate truth. Instead of like really clinging to an idea, they have to cling to people. And so if you attack those people, a lot of their supporters view that as an attack on the idea, and so they'll defend it at all costs, even when that person is very inconsistent and not following through on the things they say they'll do. So, I don't know. I get a lot of hate for it, but in general, I feel like that's one of my roles, is to constantly kind of, you know, push back and hold people accountable. But I don't know. I mean, I hope that things do loosen up more and more, and I hope that there is more free speech. And if there is, man, what an opportunity, because they really rely on censorship, you know? I mean, their ideas don't hold up. The establishment, the warmongers, you know, none of their ideas are good. None of their policies have worked. You know, and they were telling us for months that inflation didn't exist, and then it was transitory, and then it's actually good.
And then it's a good thing. Yeah, never forget it's a good thing.
The only way they could get away with all this stuff and acting like it never happened is through censorship. So if there actually becomes a level playing field, they're done for. They're absolutely done.
Well, I thought it was pretty interesting that Elon Musk, so he's released the Twitter files, and then he also, and let me pull this story up so I can actually quote him directly, but he also pulled up something where he was talking about how he thinks something bad, the likelihood of something bad happening to him is very high, is what it kind of reminds me of John McAfee style. You know, where John McAfee was like, if anything happens to me, know that I didn't kill myself. There's a secret file. Although, where the fuck are the McAfee files, by the way? I was promised a trove of information to come out from John McAfee after he died, and I've seen jack shit. Maybe his stripper wife sitting on it, trying to pitch a movie. But Elon Musk said, at the end of the day, here's a quote. At the end of the day, we just want to have a future where we're not oppressed, where our speech is not suppressed, and we can say what we want without fear of reprisals. Frankly, the risk of something bad happening to me, or even literally being shot, is quite significant. So he's saying, and I don't know if he means because some crazy left-wing nutball, which of course the left has lost their mind and turned on Elon Musk, if they're going to come shoot him, or if he's saying that politicians, somebody in the government, the Hillary Clintons, are going to Arkansas him type of thing. But that makes me think that, again, we're on the right track. The fact that the Biden administration brings up that, oh, well, we might just have to investigate this Elon Musk guy right as he's freeing up speech and allowing people back on the platform, makes me think that things are going on the right track, because the elites are freaking out and threatening action. And they just, by the way, started investigating Neuralink, which is, his transhumanism thing for, I don't know, animal abuse. But the timing couldn't be more perfect.
Yeah, it's interesting because, what they will view as a threat sometimes to me is confusing. Like, why would you, and not necessarily with Musk, but in the past with like with Trump, like, the establishment obviously has this intense hatred for Trump. And I've always kind of wondered why. I mean, because I know he's got a little bit of a renegade spirit in him here and there, but for the most part, I mean, he does whatever they ask him to. Like he won't.
He did.
I mean, he did do everything they asked him to.
I'll posit this theory real quick. You say, I think they hate him because they see themselves reflected so incredibly strongly in him. It's just that he is not quite adept at keeping up the facade to the public, right? But he exposes, like, he is everything. Politically, he's connected. He's got the money. He's still obeying all of the big players, as you said, big pharma, military, industrial. He's still playing the game, but he can't keep up the facade. And they're looking at him, and it's showcasing them exactly what they are, but they pretend not to be. Like, they won't allow themselves to realize every one of them is Donald Trump.
Very true. I just think it's kind of similar. Or it could be kind of similar with Elon Musk, like all these people freaking out about stuff he's going to say. Where, I mean, Elon obviously is not a free speech champion. I mean, with some of the things he's said lately about like not allowing Alex Jones back on, and then the reason he gave is because he profited off the deaths of children, and it's like, how many people who are still on the platform have profited off the deaths of children? Like, give me a break. So. I mean,
Balenciaga probably still has an account,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's amazing to me, like, who is considered a right-wing extremist or a threat to the establishment. Like, Joe Rogan. I mean, he is an interesting person so far as, all the people he's talked to and all the things he's done and a lot of skills he has. But when it comes to his political opinions, he's about as boring and as normie as you can get. Like, he's just like an old-fashioned liberal, kind of like, oh, I don't know, like, but he has been called a right-wing extremist by, the mainstream press, by the left, and it's just like, what are you guys talking about? Like, this guy? I mean, he's just a stoner who sits there and says, tell me what you think about this. Oh, that's interesting. What about this? That's all this guy is, and he's like the biggest threat in the world to you. So it is funny to just see the reaction that these people have to people who I wouldn't necessarily consider like to be huge renegades or people who are trying to destroy the system and tear it down. But hopefully I'm wrong about Musk. Hopefully he is like, I'm willing to, like I said, I'm holding his feet to the fire, but I'm still willing to, give him a chance. I mean, if he proves me wrong, great. That would be awesome.
Well, I think it's the crux of it's going to come down to, and this is something I'd said on the episode that aired on Wednesday. The problem is he paid $44 billion for Twitter. So unless he's willing to, and he can afford to just eat that money. Let's not be, he can definitely afford to do it. But unless he's going to be a Samaritan that's just going to say, look, I'm going to fight for free speech flat out, and not worry about making a profit out of Twitter, which doesn't seem to be the case, that's where he is going to have, it's the rubber hit the road. If he wants to make it profitable, probably advertisers are not going to want to be on the platform if it's just a Wild West like it once was in the beginning, where you could say anything. So I think there's always going to be some restrictions on that. You just have to hope that it's not going to be covering, not content-related censorship and more focused on, okay, you're not allowed to call somebody the N-word, or something like something like that, where you go, all right, this is going to be something you're going to get flagged for, but have the rules be completely crystal clear, right? Yeah. That's the thing, is Twitter had this amorphous censorship rule, which is obviously, it came from these Twitter files, obviously based purely in the opinions, the political biases of the people that were running it, rather than, look, this is the narrow silo, don't touch this third rail and you'll be fine.
Yeah, it's It's interesting seeing free speech platforms claim that that's what they are, and then going and testing the waters. As you remember, about a year ago when Getter came out saying they were a free speech platform, I was like, really? Huh? Let's go test this out. Let's go find out. And it didn't take long to get posts removed.
Right.
But the free speech thing is interesting because there's the First Amendment, and then there's like, if a company is calling itself a free speech platform, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to follow the First Amendment, because the First Amendment is explicitly about the government not creating laws to control what people say. That's all the First Amendment is about. The First Amendment has nothing to do with Twitter, has nothing to do with, like, you know, if my company fired me because I called one of our customers the N-word, that is totally within their rights. Like, you know, they're it's not like the First Amendment has been violated because I signed a contract with them and, you know, whatever. But if my company that I work for advertised themselves as, hey, we believe in absolute free speech and we'll do nothing to shut people down, then I could be like, hey guys, like, maybe I shouldn't have said this, but you advertised yourselves as a company where I could say whatever I want as long as I wasn't directly inciting violence or, you know, all these terms we agreed to. And that's what Twitter is, you know, trying to brand itself as though that's what it's doing. It you know, if Twitter is going to really become a free speech platform, it doesn't necessarily just mean that the government isn't going to have any control over what people say on it. It means that they're taking an extra initiative to say, we're gonna not be like the government either, and we are also not going to censor anything you have to say unless you're directly inciting violence. And a lot of people are confused over that. Like, when Facebook is sharing your private information that you've sent through messages, you signed an agreement when you joined Facebook that Facebook basically has the right to anything that you post on the platform. And so I hear a lot of people saying, like, this violates the Constitution and we need to, it's like, no, it just doesn't. So it's a funny conversation, an interesting place to go. And I have not seen, like, I think Gab is like the closest thing to a free speech platform that exists, and like nobody uses it. And the thing that sucks is it's where all the Nazis end up. You know, like,
I know, right?
And then the other thing is, like, you know, if you get banned off of Twitter, you are pushed into a corner where you can only talk to a certain type of person.
Man.
And then all that does is, you know, tempt you to start thinking that way and start saying things that are going to attract them more.
Yep.
So anyone who's pushing for censorship, you are literally pushing people to become more radicalized, to grow their followings. It's just stupid. It's all
precisely right. Well, I mean, now Parler is definitely a place you should be able to at least talk about the Jewish cabal. I mean, Conway did buy Parler, so there's a safe haven for all of you out there, all the Nazis out there. Just pivoting over, because I wanted to talk about this topic. I thought it was so funny. I was just laughing. The New York Times, right, went on a one-day strike, which is kind of like, all right, jerk-offs, one-day strike, put your balls out there and be men. Which I was just saying, management, here's your opportunity to lock the doors, get all the psychos out and start anew, actually redeem your brand. But the funny thing was, nobody seems to give a shit. Like, there's this article I read, 26 people watched the USA Today. USA Today televised the New York Times strike on site with the video, and 26 people watched it total. So what does that tell you, right? I mean, to me... Wow. Yeah, exactly. To me, that means, number one, the New York Times, their brand is definitely waning. And I think that also, mainstream media brands overall, especially as you see people wising up to what's going on with censorship, right? Because half of the reason that censorship is such a big thing and that these big news organizations are fighting for more censorship against quote-unquote disinformation is so that they can have a monopoly on the narrative. And of course, since so many of them take their marching orders from government, military, pharma, et cetera. That's what they want, the one silo of information. But seeing people just not give a fuck that the New York Times is on strike gives me so much joy in my heart. And again, makes me think that people are finally making the pivot away from mainstream media and looking to social media for their news. Like, that is the hub now. The hub is podcasts. There's the hub is like you and me sharing news.
Yeah, man, I really want to believe that, but then you have the election that just happened a month ago, and it's just like, what? Like, I thought people weren't listening to this stuff anymore. I thought people had,
Yeah.
like, broken out of the bubble and were questioning everything because of the lockdowns and all the lies they've been told. And then apparently that wasn't the case.
Yeah,
It
apparently
was
not. I
amazing.
mean, I was also really confused by the election results because similarly I thought there would be not that a red wave is necessarily the greatest thing because
Right.
again they're both shitty but better than the blue. And to your point, I also was kind of blown away by the fact that people didn't absolutely revolt over inflation and COVID. I guess maybe abortion people were still like I wanted to kill my baby, but
Yeah.
otherwise I couldn't believe it either, man. But I don't know. Fear is a powerful drug, and it comes. I think it's two things. It's fear and that memory of what it was that's just hard to let go of. And it's like my bad people theory, which I've floated out a ton of times before, which is that if you went along with all the bullshit, if you believed the lies, if you turned your neighbor into the fucking COVID police, if you were cheering for vaccines and people to be fired for not taking them, then you, after watching the carnage, watching a third of the streets on your on your block lose their stores, you are a terrible human being. Like you are a piece of garbage. And these people aren't ready to admit that yet. They're not ready to look in the mirror and be like, I'm a fucking piece of shit. And vote the other way and be like, I was wrong. I seriously think that a lot of people are just still in that mode of like latching onto it. They just can't believe the truth.
Yeah, see, this is why I actually don't believe that the 2020 election was stolen. And I've drawn the ire of a lot of, anti-establishment people because I don't sign on to that. And it's because of what you just said right there. I don't think they had to steal it. Like, I think people are brainwashable enough and just, willing to be led enough and not think for themselves enough. Um, I mean, out of any excuse people want to create for why that election should have gone a different way, saying that people would not vote for Joe Biden because they're smarter than that is not an excuse that I buy. I'm like, sorry, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, we are not talking about the same group of people that I've been witnessing over the last few
Right.
years. But yeah, I mean, I know people in my own life who would not visit me or not like be in the same room as me just a year ago because I wasn't vaccinated, who have now just moved on and it's all gone and forgotten, and all the policies they advocated for, are just kind of swept under the rug. And so yeah, I don't think any of that is I don't think any of that is going to be correctly reconciled. And it's tough. Like, some people I think belong in jail for life, and then other people I think they were just duped into it. And I don't really know, like, if there's anything we could do about that. I mean, there's been so many things people have been duped into, like the war in Iraq. Like, think of how many people supported that, and that was a huge mistake. And I mean, what happened to them? Some people definitely belonged in prison for that, and then other people is just like, well, you listened to some propaganda and you got swept up in it. So it's a hard healing process. I'm trying to evaluate it on a case by case basis, based on different individuals and how they acted, and what my reaction to them should be. But it's very weird sifting through all of it.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. Talking about propaganda. So, you obviously are involved in the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire Twitter account and coming up with some of the messaging there. What have you found has been the most effective trying to shake people out? Like, I know you guys, you like to do stuff that's going to be a little bit more shocking to people, an aggressive strategy. Has that been working out? Like, have you had people react positively and be like, you know what, I never thought about this way? It's kind of, because it's like one of those things, there's two ways to go about it. The gentle persuasion of, like with why I try to do a lot of this shows, I'm working on the more positive, like we're selling them a vision of the future that they can buy into. Basically, the liberal promise of like a better world, right? That's what I'm trying to work on. But at the same time, there is that like cold water in the face, give you the backhand, wake the fuck up. And I think that's what you guys are doing more of. So what's that response been? Like, are you seeing a positive response? Are you seeing growth and people kind of shaking up?
Yeah, so I think the most effective tweet was the Meghan McCain tweet. Because what that did was that evoked an emotional reaction from thousands of people who would have just ignored a Scott Horton thread about the war in Yemen, or even a Dave Smith clip about how bad the Saudis are, or whatever. Like,
And just for context, for those of you who haven't seen the tweet, basically, it was a tweet with Meghan McCain standing over John McCain's casket, right, with the American flag on it. What was the exact phrase on it? Just that
happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
It was the anniversary of his death. So
right, yeah. There you
go. So like, you can even have like Dave Smith doing an epic rant about how bad the genocide in Yemen is, and that will, I mean, a lot of people did see that. Like, millions of people saw that on YouTube. But if you posted a clip on Twitter, I don't think it would get international news and like, be the topic of discussion for 2 days across the country, and cause all this crazy havoc that ensued. Because what that does, that gives us an opportunity, is people are responding with emotion, and so they're no longer thinking in an ignorant way of like just ignoring some statistic that someone's posting. They're just angry that you would say that, and they're like, why would you say that? So they're already all flared up and angry about it. And then that's the perfect time to show them a video of an airstrike where a bunch of people get killed and a kid is pulling himself around on the floor with his guts coming out behind him, because they're already all flared up and all emotional. And then you show them that, and for a lot of people, it did open their eyes. They're like, oh, now I see it. So that, it doesn't work with everybody. It definitely turns some people off. It just, doesn't work at all on some people. Like, they just feel the same way about us that they always have. It's just confirmation bias. But in New Hampshire, we are really trying to attract a certain type of person. We're really trying to attract the kind of hardcore based libertarians. And I'm specifically talking about the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire. Like, the Free State Project in general envelops a lot more than just the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire. The Libertarian Party in New Hampshire, we're just really going for the renegades. We're trying to create a rabid base of libertarians there who are basically as rabid as the progressives who are destroying our country. Like, we think we need an equal force pushing back on that. And it's not for everybody, but it is effective on social media. I mean, we have by far the most impressions out of any social media account for the Libertarian Party state affiliates. We're the largest state affiliate by thousands now. We make the news on a regular basis. They write about us around the world depending on what we tweet. So we've like carved out a place for ourselves where
it's appointment viewing.
Yeah, I mean, if something happens, I know that there are journalists watching the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire to wait to see what we have to say about it. They're like, okay, what are they going to say this time?
Yeah,
they're ready
exactly.
to go, so.
I mean, no, exactly, man. And that's where, people are calling on Angela and, this saying, oh, we need more top-down control over the individual parties and all this shit. And to her credit, she was like, no, we're not going to do that. That's not the way we operate. And I actually love the model of, let each state operate its own social media, because that's where you're going to find, number one, what works more effectively by saying, you try this, you guys are doing something very unique out there. And it does seem to be working. As you said, there's always me working in PR. There's the upside and the downside. There's the old phrase, any PR is good PR. And to a large extent, I agree with that. But it is fascinating to see, like you said, people that you're giving them the opportunity to engage in a different way. And sometimes that outrage, especially on something as, like you said, as emotional as war, as emotional as, somebody dying, the vulnerability and the anger can be flipped. That's the old adage, it's a thin line between love and hate. And you can find people with cracks in their armor because they are coming at you in a vulnerable state where they may not have their armor up because they're just not thinking that way. Whereas if you're having a rational discussion with somebody, as much as you can with some of these people, their armor's already up. Their arguments are already stacked, right? They're not going to be open to having that dialogue rather than, as you said, an emotional engagement.
Yeah, I think, if we're going to advertise ourselves as the decentralized revolution, then we should have a decentralized approach. As long as we're all selling the same product, I think different advertisement techniques should be welcome. Especially
for Geico. They got the lizard and the caveman. Look, that's exactly fantastic. They got a TV show out of it that failed.
Yeah.
You were one of the cast members. I'm looking at you right now.
I know. I should have messed my hair up a little bit more. But yeah, I mean at this point in the game, when we have like such little impact on the general zeitgeist and the direction of discussion in this country, we should be throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. Yeah. Just trying to be the party of principle for 50 years obviously hasn't worked. I mean, it's got us nowhere. It's actually gone backwards. Like we have had small electoral success. We got electoral votes in like one of the first couple nationwide elections that the Libertarian Party participated in. We got higher percentage, just a couple elections ago, and we've gone backwards. And then this latest midterm was just, trash. And, so like, I feel like anyone who's saying, stop, what you're doing doesn't work, unless it's the thing that we've been doing for the last 50 years. I don't think we really know at this point. Like, should we be funny? Should we be aggressive? Should we be creative? Like, what? I mean, I think it's kind of an all of the above approach, and let's see what works the best. But if we're seeing what works the best for social media messaging, I think it's kind of undeniable that ours has been the most effective. Like I think we had a party affiliate following of like 3,000 on Twitter in 2021, and now it's like 35,000, and Texas is behind us at like 28,000 or something. So it's definitely blown out of the water. And the thing is, in New Hampshire at least, the Libertarian Party isn't really looking for electoral success as far as party members go, because in New Hampshire, libertarians who want to win run in the Republican Party, and like 100 of them got elected this last election in New Hampshire. If they had run in the Libertarian Party, which a couple of them did, none of them would have won. There's a guy who ran as a Republican, and then once he got in, he switched his registration to Libertarian, and then he lost. And then he ran again as a Republican, and he won again. So it's just like, why bother to have the nice...
These people forget. They're like, it's almost like, somebody puts on like playing with a kid with peekaboo. You're like, they're like, I'm a Republican. And then you go, Libertarian. And then you go, peekaboo, I'm Republican. They fucking forget. They're just giggling. Yeah. They're like, oh, he's back.
Well, you know idiots. What it is it comes down to the simplicity of, there's two lines, Democrat, Republican, and no one looks over to the third one. Like that's really like what it comes down to. Yeah,
there's a sad truth to that. I agree there. So different topic now, pivoting it to some current events here. Russia has swapped Brittany Griner back with some an arms dealer. Just think about that, right? Not that I have anything against arms dealership in general, because as libertarians and anarchists, I think everybody should be able to buy the arms. So more arms dealers, more drug dealers, I'm fine with all of them. But it is kind of funny that, this fucking WNBA player, who number one is an idiot. If I'm flying to Russia, you know what I'm not doing? I'm not bringing drugs with me for obvious reasons. Know where you're going. But they swapped out, they get Brittany Griner back, right? And release this weapons dealer. Number one, do you give a fuck that she's back? And number two, is this a massive slap in the face, considering the charges that she was on, drug possession? They spend all this time and money and international hand-wringing to get her back. Meanwhile, we've got hundreds of thousands of people in jail right here at home for the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly hypocritical. So we talk about Russia, imprisoning Brittany Griner, and then we talk about the Chinese putting Uyghurs in camps, but we have more people incarcerated for minor drug offenses, and not just minor drug offenses, but a litany of crimes, many of which they should not be in prison for. I think the United States is still the number one country in the world for incarceration.
We are, China, we have been for a while. Yeah, we haven't for a while.
I mean, for us to be complaining about human rights atrocities when it comes to being imprisoned for something menial, I mean, we have absolutely no place to talk at all.
No. Well, there's also, I don't know if this has changed at all in the past couple of years, but I don't know if you knew about this. a lot of states, their relationships with the prison system is that they have contracts in place where they have to keep the prisons, something like 90% full, 90% capacity. So they're incentivized basically to arrest people for stupid shit and to sentence them and to ship them off because it's part of the state contracts. So we have officially a prison industrial complex for sure. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I shake my head at the system. I guess kind of like we're talking about with the messaging in the party of New Hampshire, Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, though, it has struck a chord with people. I have seen other people make that point that we have this large incarcerated state at home, how hypocritical it is to spend all this time and effort. And it is giving people an opportunity at least to weigh in and point out the absurdity of the system here at home. So, thanks, Brittany. I guess that's the bright side. We need more stupid WNBA players to get arrested for more dumb shit abroad.
Yeah,
that's the lesson.
She's following the lead of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire by doing something that's kind of dumb, but gets a lot of international news and gets people talking about a certain issue. So I mean, it's obviously the way to lead. That's how Donald Trump did everything, right? Like he would say something kind of dumb, but that was kind of true and got everyone talking about something, and then he'd get wall-to-wall news coverage about it for an entire week. Never had to pay for any media. I mean, that's the thing to me is like, look, so the governor of New Hampshire condemned the Libertarian Party for the McCain tweet saying that like the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire doesn't even deserve to exist anymore. And he was on CNN saying this to Dana Bash. So I went on CNN and I typed in libertarian and tried to find the last time CNN talked about libertarians. The last time they talked about us was when Justin Amash
had switched.
His when he did his like little what do you call it, his little, when he was looking into running for president, what was that called?
When he was looking into like an exploratory committee, which was by the way, I think that was the first and only time that Lions of Liberty was on CNN. Or what are they like? We got, because he had talked about it on our show, and we got linked to all these big mainstream news outlets because of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was the last time they talked about us. And it's like, look, guys, I mean, we either get attention when we have like a congressman who joins our party. Other than that, they don't give a shit. They didn't talk about Joe Jorgensen. They didn't talk about us, introducing or really pushing for this legislation that's been introduced to end the war in Yemen. Like, they don't talk about any of that stuff. They just don't care. So you have to be a little flashy, and you have to do something that's sort of on target that gets people talking about something that moves the ball in the right direction. So I approve of the messaging, obviously. And when I moved back to New Hampshire, they instantly put me on the board and were like, we want you, supplying some of this stuff. So I've been adding my own spiciness to it. Brittany Griner.
Adam, our buddy Adam Choi says Brittany Griner should move to New Hampshire and join the LPNH. Amen.
Join the Free State Project, Brittany. You'll love it.
Yeah, you'll have a wonderful time there. Man, what do you think about the national party's messaging right now? Do you think that they're going far enough? Like, have you been paying attention to some of the tweets they're putting out?
Yeah, I'm good friends with Reed Cooley, great guy. Mm-hmm. I like a lot of the funny kind of sarcastic stuff he puts out. Some of it is a little boomer-ish for me, but
yeah.
I'm coming from LP New Hampshire, so like my bar is set, pretty damn high, but it's definitely better than it was before. There's no doubt. Like, I mean, the way
it's more pure. It's less pandering. Yeah, it's less pandering now. I do agree on the boomer side of things. I do agree it's a little bit boomery. My thing is, like I said, sorry, I'm banging my mic. It's at that time of day in my house where like the sun is setting outside my window next to me, so I have to keep adjusting my fucking lights because it's. So my thing is, like I said before, though, I want to see. It's still too much one note to me of complaining about stuff without a promise of making things better. I still think that's got to be a component in what we do that's just not in there yet, which is telling people like, here's the problem, here's the solution. It's like there's not enough positivity to give people a reason to believe the party can solve a problem rather than simply it's fine if you want to untie the knot, right? But what are you going to make now? How are you going to make my life better? What are you going to do to put into place? What processes are going to improve here? And that's the thing that I just don't think they're doing.
Is that because nobody in the party actually believes they can actually solve any of the problems at this point? Is that like
It
why
might
that's
be.
happening?
It very well could be. I mean, to your point about being frustrated and trying to talk about shit you can actually do to improve your own life.
Yeah, I don't. It was kind of depressing to watch the whole party this midterm election because, I mean, I don't personally have anything against Chase Oliver other than he blocked me on Twitter. I don't really care about him, but I'm not a huge fan of his style of messaging, and I don't think he represents the best that we have. But he ended up getting like the most news coverage out of any candidate because he caused a runoff in Georgia.
Yeah.
And so after the Mises Caucus takeover and all this energy and all this money that's flown in, what do we have to show for ourselves in 2022? Chase Oliver. It's kind of like, is that really the best we could do? I don't know. So I gotta admit, like I've wondered if the I'm trying not to sound like a post-libertarian throughout this entire episode because that's kind of what I'm drawing myself as. Like that, I feel like Tho Bishop has kind of drawn this conclusion that if you're going to run as a Republican, you basically have to sell out to the MAGA base and do whatever they want if you want to be successful. And I don't think that's true because that's not what Ron Paul did. It's not really what Rand Paul did. It's definitely not what like Thomas Massey did. It's not what Justin Amash did. You know, there are a lot of Republicans who were in office who were really good and really pushed for the things we want. And they got elected. So I think if your goal is to get elected, then you probably shouldn't run as a libertarian in just about every scenario. Maybe there's some weird fluke in a state where there's an unopposed Republican. You could be like, well, I'm going to run as a libertarian against him. But like, I don't think a lot of people believe that Dave Smith could win if he runs for president. And I want Dave to run for president because I mean, I don't think he's going to win. That's not why I want him to run.
Right.
Like, to me, it's more about bringing a conversation up that no one else is bringing up. But I feel like a lot of people are really delusional about what the Libertarian Party's role is. If its role is to win elections, then I don't know. I mean, I don't really have much words of hope for you because I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
I think the role of the party right now, and I've talked about how I define success for the party right now, it would not be in electoral success in any way. It would be party enrollment or funding going up. That's what, to me, would make more sense to judge it by. But yeah, I think that the Libertarian Party's sole focus, and I've argued that they shouldn't even support candidates in elections, unless you said like it's one that looks like a slam dunk they could win. I think it's a waste of fucking time. I'd much rather the Libertarian Party be more or less a cultural warfare association.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to see.
Basically
like I said,
what the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire is.
Right, yeah, exactly. But that's what it has to be, right? It has to be cultural warfare, and put the money into that, into developing, content, into developing short form, video content we could put out, advertising content we could put out, messaging content
like that.
Go after. We can recruit that trans guy that's stealing luggage from airports. We'll convert him. Yeah. He can be our number one spokesman. But you know what I mean? Like, it's got to be a cultural warfare because we're not going to win elections. And instead, test the waters, see what the impact is. And your money goes so much farther creating broad content rather than solo election-based content or throwing, $5,000 behind some schlub in a local election. Get a SMOTS. Get you guys. Buy advertising and proliferate it. You could buy advertorials. There's ways to do this in which you can reach populations and try to convert people over and create a snowball effect where you can now get more money through the fundraising and try to win people over that were like the flip-floppers. And this is like, all those people that voted for Gary Johnson, they weren't real libertarians. They were just voting for the anti-establishment candidate. I think it was the same for Ron, but a lot of people for Ron at least stuck around. And I would argue because he was talking about not only ripping down, but also the path forward, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, give up on this election bullshit. Cultural warfare all the way. Let's create a mini series. They can fucking back Do Nothing Man, and we'll go from there. But
yeah, I mean, I think there was like less than $10,000 put into Jeremy Kauffman's campaign. But think of the ads that came out of that thing.
Oh, awesome!
And he wasn't allowed into any of the debates. He barely got any mainstream news interviews that they voluntarily wanted to talk to him. But the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire got, tons of news stories written about them. His ads went viral on.
Yeah.
I mean, they got millions
War
of
is
views
gay
on
and,
several platforms. So in my mind, from what we wanted to get out of that campaign, it was a success. Because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, you guys only got 2%, so you really didn't reach what you wanted to." And I mean, it would have been nice to get the 4% because then it would have, given us major party status or whatever, and we can influence the Republican Party more that way. But I mean, at the end of the day, who really cares if it's 2% or 4% or 6% or 8% or whatever percent it is, as long as you don't win? Like, why does it really matter? And we had a specific goal that we were going to get a mass media campaign to advertise the Free State Project and why people should move to New Hampshire, and how awesome the libertarians in New Hampshire are. Basically, that was the goal. And Jeremy, when he agreed to run the campaign, he said, "Look, I'm not knocking on doors. I'm not doing events. Like, I'll run if you guys really want me to, but this is the way it's going to be." So there was like no canvassing. There was no, going out and knocking on doors and calling people and trying to get them out to vote. And I mean, good. Like, why do that? Like, that would have been such a waste of time at the end of the day. All these ads are going to live on in libertarian lore for a long time. Like, they're going to be remembered, not like the Giuliani moment, but I'm trying to think of another thing that's comparable. The war is gay ad will live on for a long time. People will always point back to that. And to me, it's like, that was so much more valuable and worth time and money than knocking on somebody's door so that we could get it from 2% to 3% at the end of the day. Like, who cares,
Exactly. And it's like, and I'd like to see the Libertarian Party national. That's just do that. Just do that over and over again on various issues, content creation. Because then, depending on how many people it reaches, number one, it's a tool everybody can use now in their local races. You're basically generating campaign content for people that can be repurposed. And they could say tacitly, say, look, take it. This is public domain for any libertarian that wants to use it. Put your campaign, title at the front or end. Put a message at the front or end. Do whatever the fuck you want with it. That's free to use. They now have content to run on their own platforms in their own little communities. And in general, though, you're creating a different cultural movement. And there are people out there who, without a doubt right now, like I swear to God, the next generation, I truly believe is running counter and the hashtag resist. They are actually resisting the two-party system far more than anybody would believe is possible because they've lived through COVID. Unlike their parents who aren't willing to admit what happened, these kids are willing to say this was fucked up. They're willing to say both these parties are going to war all the time. Both these parties are cancel culture, censorship, monsters, and they're coming around. So putting this content out on the platforms that they view shit on, because that's the other thing, right? Running a TV ad is one thing. Putting content out on the web, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Twitter, that's where the younger people are. That's who we need to reach. Fuck the boomers, fuck the millennials, fuck Gen Z. Now is the time to reach these people. Yeah, and I think that the way that you're going about it and the way that, again, the ads with Coffin did, I think that's the way we're going to succeed.
Yeah, my most valuable contribution to the conversation surrounding politics has been my video of me shooting an M1 Garand, bump firing it. That's got probably on all platforms, probably tens of millions of views at this point.
Oh, yeah, man.
It just pops up everywhere, on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, other than my channel.
Oh, it's a meme. It's like, a meme that you get, as long as you're allowed to send gun memes. Yeah, it's like the perfect gun meme.
Yeah. So, that has probably done more to change people's minds than any episode I've ever done about why gun control sucks. And, libertarians gotta remember that most of us didn't become libertarians probably because someone just convinced us it was the right way. The first interaction we had was probably something kind of brave or something kind of funny or something kind of different that just caught our eye. That's always the hook. It's never like, let me sit you down and tell you why the non-aggression principle is so important and why we shouldn't fight wars overseas. That doesn't work on most people. Most people, they remember the Giuliani moment or even if it's the "what is Aleppo" moment, maybe that's how some people found out about, like, oh, who is this guy? And then actually, okay, I don't know. It's those types of moments that advertise us. So, for good or for bad, that's mostly how you reach people, is either say something really stupid or something really powerful. And if you're good, it can be somewhere in the middle where it's kind of like funny, stupid, and powerful and pointing in the right direction.
Well, I do think that comedy is another component, which that's something I really want to put more time into, is making funny content that's libertarian centric, just pointing out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many absurdities in the world that can easily be highlighted and pointed out in just short form comedy. And that's what I actually want to talk to Matt Kibbe about, pitch something to do with his organization. But anyway, comedy, liberty, memeing, it's all great stuff. I want to wrap us up here, Reed, because I got to watch my baby while my wife picks up my toddler. So where can people find you now? Obviously, the YouTube page is back, but is there a permanent place they can find you in any way?
I'm also on Odyssey, Rumble,
There you go.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I mean, I guess they could kick me off those too, but definitely good on Odyssey, probably good on Rumble. I'm the only Reed Coverdale and the only naturalist capitalist, so if you Google those, you'll find one SPLC article written about me. But then the rest is, my podcast where you can follow me. And I'm going to be scaling back a little bit after Christmas. Just going to be probably doing like a couple episodes every weekend or something, instead of trying to... Because I've been doing one every night, and I've been up till like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And then getting up at 4 and going to work. And it's manual labor, not just driving a truck now. So I'm going to try to reassess that and figure that out. But still going to keep the content coming. I'm working on some big guests. Hopefully they pull through. Tulsi Gabbard finally come on my show. What the hell? I don't know when that's going to happen. But check it out. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you won't. But you don't know until you try it. So give it a try. Thanks for having me on again, man. Always good to talk to you.
Yeah, awesome, man. And good. I hope to see you again soon after the cold, harsh winter is over.
Indeed.
All right, buddy. Well, again, thank you, Reed Coverdale. Thank you all for listening to Mean Age Daydream from me, Brian McWilliams. Reminding you, join our Patreon, by the way. We're doing 15% off an annual subscription to the Lions Liberty Patreon, where you could get my Good Morning Fuckhead Daily Rants. You could get early access to these videos, live streams, as we're doing now. This will air next Wednesday, by the way, Reed. So all of you watching on the Patreon got to see it early in advance. And, of course, you can get discounts at our Lions Liberty store. That's it. All right. So, from Mean Age Daydream, from the Lions of the Liberty Network, from the Naturalist Capitalist, and from, I don't know, I think I already said Mean Age Daydream, but keep those electric eyes on me, babe, and keep that ray gun to both of our heads.